You're listening to Funny Peculiar with Jeff Downs.
Welcome to another episode of Funny Peculiar Podcast. Thanks for downloading, thanks for sharing. This week I've got a great guest, and he's a street magician, and he's called David Bonfadini. He's known as the Magic Crasher. I want to introduce this guy to you. Just go anywhere for social media, website, YouTube. He's got 152,000 subscribers on YouTube. Just put in the Magic Crasher. You'll get him on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all platforms. He's around. His tricks are amazing. We have a great chat. He takes us through this journey from when he was working in the card shop, how he reached out to this autistic guy, and we go on later to discuss how he then creates tricks for autistic people and kids. That's absolutely amazing. It's a great story. You can get him through the website. You can get his email through, contact him through the website. But anyway, it's an hour special. It's a long one, but please keep listening. And we also get a great little story about when he was working with Bryan Cranston on Malcolm in the Middle, because he was starring in that as well, and he shows Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul card tricks. It's fantastic. You've got to keep listening. So without further ado, this is the guy. It's David Bonfadini. It's the Magic Crasher on Funny Peculiar Podcast. So, welcome to another episode of Funny Peculiar, and we have an international guest this week, and it's a very great pleasure to introduce the wonderful, well, he's known as the Magic Crasher, but he's actually called David Bonfadini, so I knew I'd get it wrong after all that practice. Hi, David.
Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Listen, thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And again, I think Instagram is such a powerful tool for a lot of people, and that's where I got to see your clips. And you've just, again, you're called the Gate Crasher, and I love your style of magic. You just literally going up to members of the public, and is that what it is? I mean, there's no edit there. You're just showing tricks to people there and then. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a mixture of showing tricks, or what I do is I try to find a moment right where I'm at around that person, and I try to create not so much a, hey, let me show you a magic trick, versus, hey, this is your moment.
Yeah.
And that can be a mixture of, let's say I see a lady just getting off the phone with someone, and she might be in distress, or she might be excited, and instead of me approaching her, I want to take that moment and I want to make it hers. So I might have my cameraman be hidden camera style, and I approach him and I just ask him, who they are, what they're all about, and then, or hey, can you help me? And usually, if someone is willing to help me, the surprise or the outcome is an awesome magic trick or that magic moment. Because I feel that if people are willing to help you out, they deserve a little pat on the back or kudos.
And how many, when you sort of spring it, how many members of the public are willing to sort of go for it? Will you get some that will go, oh, no, this is not for, I don't want to be filmed, or generally the high percentage will go, hey, yeah, go for it?
Surprisingly, when I first started it was more people being like, nah, or don't bother me. And then now it's like, I'll set up a camera, I'll go out in the public, I'll start doing something, and if I feel like they're hesitant, I'll be like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm filming, it's going to be magic. And then they're like, oh, it's magic? And then it flips them. And they're like, oh my gosh, magic? I love it.
And so if they know there's a camera around and you make a little bit of a pizzazz moment, that they'll turn on to you pretty quickly, and that's it.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
That's what, and listen, just for anybody listening as well, David has thousands of followers as well. I think you've got 40,000 on Instagram. Just amazing following. Now, you're the Magic Crasher on Instagram and on Facebook as well, and YouTube and Musically
and Vigo, all of it.
It's all of it. It's all there. So I'll trail that at the end. I'll make sure it's in the bio. So please, if you're listening and you're on your phone, get on Instagram. David's got some great tricks on there. So let's go back, because this is, how long have you been doing magic for?
So I started when I was 6 years old.
Wow. 6.
And 6 actually. around this time, summertime, we have a state fair, and the Orange County Fair, there was a magician, and his name is Jim, and he's a pitch man, and he sells magic to the fair goers. And I was 6, and the first trick I was enamored by was nickels to dimes, where you take a stack of nickels and place a cap on top of it and snap, and it turns into 4 dimes. And, when I saw it, I wasn't like, oh, that's magical. I was like, oh, he just made money. This is awesome. and so being 6 years old, I was like, And he stopped these people that were walking, stopped them, showed them, and then they turned around and bought something. So I was more intrigued by his interaction, how he was able to flip normal people and create a moment and then turn them into buyers.
Right. So it was that instant where you sort of summed up the whole thing going on right in front of you, just to say there's more here. And then did you then learn more tricks? Was that, or did you leave it for a bit, or was that you were hooked?
I was hooked, but I was 6. So I do remember coming back. I believe 7 years old. I had a magician at a birthday party. My parents got me a magician, and then when I was 8, we went to Las Vegas, and my parents were gambling and whatnot. And I said, hey, before you guys go put $50 in a slot machine, give me $50. I'm going to go to this magic shop. And I bought cups and balls.
Wow.
And that was probably my first actual big boy magic trick that I had to learn a little sleight of hand. And after I did that, I was like, oh, this is cool.
And just to say as well, you've gone up to Las Vegas. Now, just for people listening, where are you based?
I'm actually in Orange County, Anaheim, California, Orange County, right near Disneyland.
Right, okay. So you were saying, I remember because you messaged me. It's like, so what? And Disneyland, there's Disney World. So people listening that are not sure. So is Disney? What's the difference between Disneyland and Disney World? Is that just geographical? One's in Florida.
Yeah, geographical. And Disneyland, the one I live next to, is the original. It's the one that started it all.
That's where it was based. So Walt Disney set up shop, and of course that's quite famous as well because Steve Martin, he started off as a magician in Disneyland, didn't he? Is that right?
Yes, and that magic shop had closed down for, I believe, a couple of years, and then Houdini's magic shop came in and revamped it, and that's what's there now. It's the same location. It's on Main Street. It's right on the corner. But now Houdini's runs it through Disney.
Right, way to say. And what's it like when you say you're right by Disneyland? So is that just a nightmare with traffic every day? I mean, people are just, because it's so popular, it's so iconic?
Actually, believe it or not, I've been to Florida, the Disney in Florida, and that is way more chaotic and hectic. Yes, because it's a huge resort land, so you have to walk everywhere or take trams and buses. For me, it's just literally get in the car and it's a straight shot, hardly any traffic. They have their parking system down. Their parking system is magic. I mean, it's just in and out. It's so simple. Right. And we never really have any issues unless it's around the firework time because people stop. I can literally watch the fireworks every single night at 9:45.
Oh my lord! So
that's how close I am.
Really? So you get your own personal firework display every night before you go to bed, basically.
Yeah, that's why the 4th of July is everyone's like, oh, fireworks, and I'm like, yeah, I live in Anaheim. Not a big deal.
Yeah. Move on, buddy.
Yeah, keep going.
Fun. So brilliant. So we know where you are. That's great. So there we are. Let's go back. So you've seen your first tricks. You're 7, your parents give you money, and you start getting into cup and ball stuff. You're buying yourself the early discipline, principle, tricks, I take it, of learning magic. And are you taking this to school? Are you trying to impress your friends? Is that how it's...
Yeah, I believe cups and balls I did take to school right after the Vegas trip. And then everybody was kind of cool. And this is where it turned for me, was when I saw how everyone reacted and the attention wasn't on me, it was on the magic. And when I grew up, I was a very heavy kid. I was at my heaviest, I think I weighed 348 pounds. And now I'm 100
Wow.
So I figured it out. 25 stones is what I used to be.
Whoa, crumbs! So you you look great in the clips, really. So that
Oh,
was
thank you.
so was that kind of being a bit of defense mechanism. The magic was I'll put their attention onto the magic, and so
150%. That's where it
okay.
flipped for me. That was my anti-bully in a
Yeah.
sense. So when the kids wanted to make fun of me, pick on me, hit me, whatever, I would instantly grab a trick, go to a group of girls, start doing magic for them, and then when the guys would come over to make fun of me, the girls would be like, "Shut up, he's in the middle of a trick," and then I'm like, "Haha,
Brilliant,
yeah,
brilliant. That's a great, fantastic. So you kept that. So you then did the desire came to learn more tricks because you realised that this could keep me, this keeps the bullies at bay, and I just learn more.
100%. Yeah, and when they saw that I could control an audience is when they started backing off. When the kids saw that, oh, you know what, we can't really bully him because we're outnumbered, because people want to watch him do a magic trick. Okay, let's back off. And for me, that's what it was. And then from there, it progressed into more of a lifestyle. You know, I've always used magic as a tool versus anything else. And I continue using magic to this day as a tool, whether it's for marketing, for, you know, engaging people, for making people happy. It is still a tool.
So it's not just an entertainment thing for you. It's more than that. It can be entertainment, but it's also interaction. It's communication. It can be many things.
Communication is the key, and that's when it's even developed into something more when I got older with the autism. I do a lot of things with the autistic community.
And I was reading your bio, and for people that don't know you, and I was reading up, and it's a great story, and we were talking earlier again about it's more open now. People are talking about people on the spectrum, and you worked in a magic shop, and you were saying in your bio that this mother would bring in her autistic son, and none of the other magicians would show him the trick. You tell me the story. Sorry, you go for it. Just explain what was going on.
So there was this gentleman named Scott. He was 22 at the time, or 26 at the time. I was 15.
Okay.
And so basically what happened was he ended up going to, like, he would always come into the shop, and he would always look for things that would shock him, like a shocking can, a shocking pen, because he had the part of the brain that it tickled him. It didn't shock him. So he would pick up this can that would shock him and hand it to people, and people just thought it buzzed. Then when people would pick it up, it shocked the hell out of him, and he would laugh. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, wait, he knows what he's doing. And he was nonverbal, so he couldn't really communicate, but he knew exactly what was going on. So he would come in every Saturday with his mom, every Saturday. And so one day I said, I asked his mom, I said, has he ever seen a magic trick? And the mom said, oh, no, don't bother. He won't understand. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I saw him kind of fingering at this, throwing his hands towards, I want this shocking can. He wanted another one because it broke. And so I got it for him, put it on the counter. And then I was like, you know what? Here, Scott, come here. And so he just followed me over to the counter, and I pulled out this card trick where you show 4 kings, and they're all the blue back. And then all of a sudden they change to a red back. And then the final is all 4 kings turn into Coca-Cola, a Coca-Cola back, a Pepsi back, just different products backs on the back of these cards. And he totally freaked out. He saw the changes and everything, but then he recognized the brands. So he was familiar. And then I was like, well, you know what? He's not going to say anything. So I'm just going to go through the movement and see if he can do it. So I literally just showed him how the trick was done. And one time, and then he takes the cards and he does it brilliantly, better than me. And I was
he then performed the trick back to you.
Oh yes, instantly. Wow. And I was like, hold on. And I called over his mom, called over Gordon, who was the other magician
Yeah.
at the shop, and I was like, "Hey guys, you got to watch this. Like, you don't know shit. This guy just blew my mind." And I was like, "Show him." Or I just went like that. I'm like, "Show him." And he put the cards the way he needed to do it, and he started doing it. And they were all impressed. And Gordon looked at me and he goes, "Did you just teach him that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I don't know what to say." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess you can't really judge a book by its cover."
How did his mother react when you?
She cried.
Really?
Yeah, she had tears in her eyes, and she was like, "Oh my God!" And then she said, "Do you want that trick?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "I'm gonna buy it for him. Don't worry about it," because I felt like that was my gift. You know, magic had touched me in a way.
And how did that make you when you realised that he'd just been able to do that because you had shown him that? How did that make you feel?
Honestly, at that right moment right there, I felt human.
Yeah.
I felt like magic humanizes us. And the thing that him and I had in common, besides being a human, having a heartbeat, breathing, sleeping, everything, he can do magic.
Yeah.
And so could I. So after that, he would come in every Tuesday or every Saturday again, and always looking for a trick. It had to be visual. Yeah. It had to be very simple, and he would have to see an instant return on the visualness in order for it to comprehend. Right. And that's when I realized, okay, so visual tricks, color changing, size changing, stuff like that, he got instantly.
He could see. So that was part to do with his kind of the autistic, his particular part of the spectrum. It was anything visual was an instant for him to see that was going on.
Yeah, and I would say he on the spectrum was probably high on the spectrum. Sure.
And the fact he couldn't talk as well. And now that's amazing that so suddenly you're communicating through magic and you're talking to each other but through magic, which I think is just incredible.
And I will say to this day that magic has no language.
Yes, it's totally international, isn't it? It's totally and this is it. You could be dropped in. We could parachute you into virtually any place on the planet, and whoomph, you could just do your trick, and people would gather around. It's still do you still find that even when you're doing it now? And how long have you been doing magic for now?
So I officially would say like 8. So 8, and I'm 36. So 28 years.
28 years. Are you still amazed? When you get that reaction, is that still a great feeling?
Oh, absolutely. I just got back from Cabo San Lucas in Mexico about 2 weeks ago. Okay. And there's another place with the language barrier, and I had no problem.
Really?
I mean, it'd start with something visual. And it's great to see actually cultures who do know a little English. It comes out after that first initial trick.
Yeah.
You know, we all hold on to our securities, which could be our own languages at the time. Yeah. And then the moment that I broke it down by showing this person a trick, then he goes, "I speak a little English." And I was like, "Your English is fine." Yeah. And then we started communicating, regularly. But he was like, "I love David Blaine." And I'm like, "Oh, awesome. He's an amazing gentleman. Not only a magician, but kind-hearted gentleman." And I've known a lot of friends that have had experiences with David Blaine on a personal level, and he's human. And and they realize, oh, we have this in common. So yes, I definitely saw that. Still to this day, that was 2 weeks ago.
That was 2, and you have again, and we'll talk about. Let's quickly go back to the shop where you were with Scott, because you were 15 when you said, and that's young to be working in a shop and then to approach this guy and show him a trick. So did you then stay on? So between 7, 8 at school, you build up your magic. You're still learning. You get into your teens. Are you doing shows around this time? When was your very first show? When you sort of, everybody come to my house, or you've got a little curtain and here's my show, ta-da. Can you remember that, when you did that?
Actually, it probably wasn't until about 24, 25. Right. I would always do street style stuff. You know,
we've just mentioned David Blaine. Was that because of David Blaine? You saw him do it, and you went, "That's my style." Is that influenced you?
Yes, because not because of the tricks. I knew everything he was doing,
Yeah.
and that wasn't what was impressive was that the street, regular, everyday people was his audience. You
Yeah.
didn't have to be in a room. You didn't have to be in a theater.
Okay.
You could virtually do it anywhere, get your crowd, as long as you knew audience management, which was something that came natural to me at a young age.
Yeah.
Audience management pretty much is the key.
Yes.
To any magic.
And in this situation, so just talk us through, and obviously don't give us away any secrets, but how you started off doing your street magic, how you learnt on the hoof, as it were. So you would just approach a couple of people and say, and this is kind of before, well, I suppose cameras and camera phones were around at that time anyway, but it was...
Actually, no, not really.
No, it
not
wasn't.
camera phones.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So it was through word of mouth that you were then getting known, this guy can do this? Was that sort of how it was happening?
Yeah, it was just like I was, known as the party magician. And well, actually around 22, around my 20s, camera phones were around. But before then, so like between 15 to about 18, the phones were just starting to kind of evolve.
Yeah.
And that was like my high school career. So yes,
Sure.
I got a lot of recognition through high school. Also, I was a child actor, and I was on Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. You worked with Bryan Cranston then?
Yes, I did. Actually,
Wow.
Actually, firsthand, I worked with him. It was really cool.
Malcolm in the Middle has been very popular over in the UK. And for people listening around the world, Malcolm in the Middle was the kind of sitcom. Where was it actually based in America? What part of America was it in? Did they have?
I don't remember what state it was in. I think it was somewhere in the Midwest, but we shot it in Hollywood.
Okay, and it was just like an average family, wasn't it, with Malcolm going through life and a sort of crazy father. So what did you do on the show? What was your part?
I played the bully. I was always typecasted because I was a big kid,
Right.
and I played the bully. And one of the breakout episodes I was in was called Bowling. You can look it up on Netflix. And
Brilliant.
It's a bowling episode, and it was basically what happened. They went to a bowling alley, but what happened when the mother took him, and what happened when the father took him. It was kind of like a dual reality.
Sure.
And I played the bully. So in one instance, I was bullying Reese. The other scenario, I was bullying Malcolm. So it was really cool how we, as a character, I was like friends with Malcolm in one, and then I was friends with Reese in the other.
Okay, and how many episodes or series did you appear in? Was it on and off stuff, bits and pieces?
It was 2 seasons.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And what was Bryan Cranston like to work with? This is pre-Breaking Bad, so but
brilliant.
he's supposed to be a lovely guy and very down to earth.
He was very, very down to earth, very brilliant. In this one particular scene, he is to hit a perfect game of bowling, which is, a 300 strikes all across. And he basically, his character realizes he's on this like road of the 300. So everything had to be the same. And so in between takes, he would say, all right, like, don't go anywhere. Like, we're not acting now. Like, cameras are off. The camera department's like switching angles, and he's like, don't go anywhere. Keep doing what you guys are doing. I got to hit this perfect game. And I'm like thinking, well, you're not really doing it. Like, you're not really doing it. But he was always in character. When he needed to be in character, he always was in character. And then, like, when we would go and get lunch on the set, he then broke that character, but he was still extremely nice, asking me questions. He was like, oh, I saw you do a magic trick to Frankie, who played Malcolm. And I was like, oh, yeah. And he goes, oh, have you ever been to the Magic Castle? And I was like, yes, I have. And at this time, I wasn't a member. Now I am a member. This was like my pre-adult days. I was, I think, 18 when I was shooting Malcolm. And he was just he loves magic.
Oh, really? He's a big fan?
Yes. Him and Aaron Paul
Oh,
who,
really? And would you show Brian the trick? Did you do a trick for him?
Actually, I did. I took 2 paper napkins because we shot at a bowling alley, and I really didn't have much on me. So and that's the type of magic I've always done, is stuff right in the minute, right in the now, using objects around me, non-gimmick, because I owned Bobo's coin magic book, and if you have that, then you can pretty much get away with a lot.
And tell us about that. Sorry, very quickly. So the book's called Bobo's Magic.
Oh, Bobo's Coin Magic. Encyclopedia to Coin Magic.
Right,
yes.
Okay. And was that something you got very early on, and that's your Bible, is it?
Pretty much. I only own, to this day, I own 3 books and 2 DVDs. And
really?
And actually 5 VHSs. That's how old.
I've got a few VHSs here. I'm from we're in the same ballpark age-wise, or nearish. So you just, through that sort of books, you just you taught yourself, and do you then invent a lot of your own stuff, like the napkins trick?
So I'll just take a lot of things, a lot of simple sleight of hands, and then I'll just incorporate it by my surroundings, and it becomes new again.
Wow.
Even though it's a coin trick that I learned in a book that was written in 1960,
Sorry, that's how so to people, again, I've not heard of Bobo, so it's like, and we had a magician over here called Paul Daniels, I expect.
I love Paul Daniels.
And he's and he was our sort of, any time we're at Christmas, you get a Paul Daniels magic set, and you'd be like, oh, great. And so this is similar to, so Bobo's would be something that for all the family, if anybody wanted to learn magic, you'd get this book, and it would teach all the basics, that sort of stuff.
Basically, Bobo's and Mark Wilson's Encyclopedia to Magic.
Right. Okay.
Those are the 2 books that I, to this day, still dig into.
Really, you still go back to those?
I do.
Wow. And so, sorry, just to get, and there you are. You're in the bowling alley. You found the napkins, and you're building
So I
the trick.
found the napkins, and I take 2 of them, and I do a classic SpongeBob transposition. To take one, put it in the hand, and then boom, it goes back to the hand that both of them started in. And he was like, "Wait, do that again." Well, he didn't know that I actually was set up to do a whole SpongeBob routine, but with napkins. And so I was like, "Okay, well, let's try it again." And then boom, boom, and then did the whole routine. And he goes, "Now, I love magic. I get the idea, but I put you on the spot, and you created this whole thing. How did you do that?"
Yeah.
And like were you expecting me to ask you? And I was like, "No, man, that's magic."
Really? And he was just absolute. How did that feel when? Because I think before Breaking Bad, but Bryan Cranston was kind of well known anyway through Malcolm in the Middle, so he was quite a star. So you impressed quite a star at that point.
Yeah, when I saw that happen, I thought, well, good job, Dave. You're onto something.
Yeah.
Keep being true to yourself and to your brand. And at that time, my brand hadn't turned into the Magic Crasher quite yet. It was, I was still just this kid that enjoyed making people go, "Wait, what the?" Hold on a second.
Hang on a minute. What's going? And he was, and that, what a great feeling to do something like that in front of Bryan Cranston. And so you carry on. So you what other stuff as a child actor? What other bits did you do? Any other shows that you were on?
I was on a Disney show for 4.5 years called The Jersey. I played the bully on that show as well.
Okay.
And let's see, who was in that has gone. I'm trying to think. There were some people that have now gone to make some pretty big careers as character actors. No one recognizable by name, but the work that they have done. And then I did a slew of commercials. I was actually in a movie with J-Lo and Ben Affleck called Geely that came out. Yeah.
Okay, so that was another part of what you did, but the magic was always something you wanted to do full time.
Yeah. Acting was, to me, making money.
Yeah.
That was a job, and magic was just my social thing. You know, when people when people are like, "Oh, this is David," and I would be like, "Oh, hey, hold on 1 second," and then all of a sudden I reach in the air and pull out a wad of cash and be like, "I got to pay for this," and they're like, "Wait, what? Where'd that come from?"
Right.
And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Where'd that come?" I'm like, "Oh, that's my invisible wallet."
Okay.
And then I would always like throw something where they're like, "What? That's not real," and I'm like, "No, obviously it is because I just did it."
So that's a trick where you just keep producing dollar bills from your pocket, is it? And
Yeah,
just...
yeah, actually from the thin air.
Ah, right. So it just and they just can't. Is that what's it like when and you see these clips? And I was watching your clips, and it's that brilliant. There's two guys you show a trick to in a garage. I love that when you show them a trick, and they're going no. And they just get freaked out and they have to run off. I love it when they just run off and then they come running back going, do that again. It's just that I love that sort of, again, that instant reaction, which must give you a buzz when you do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, every time I do a trick and I get a reaction like that, it's always that confirmation and affirmation that I'm doing what I love. And those guys in the garage actually... that was a real moment. My car had just broken down.
Really?
And, yeah, this happened like a week ago. My car had just broken down, and so I was stuck in Wilmington, which is far from Anaheim, and I had to find a garage at least to figure out what was wrong with the car. And I went in, and the gentleman was straight up. He found the problem within 10 minutes, told me how long it was going to take, how much it was going to cost. No bullshit, no BS at all.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, this guy's going to get crashed after he's done, because to me, when I crash someone that is a hard worker, it's their reward.
Yeah.
Because he had no idea who I was. He didn't know that I did magic. He didn't know about my social medias. He knew nothing.
Yeah.
So that was even more of a surprise when I got him. And that trick that I did in the video was actually the trick that I did for Brian with the paper napkin.
Oh, right.
But I did it with nuts, because because we were at an auto shop.
Yeah. I'm watching it now. For people listening, it's the third clip in, and it's two guys. One's got a baseball cap on. It's brilliant, and it is. I can see it's with bolts and nuts now, and it's fantastic. I love the reaction, and it's one. And so it's literally your car had broken down, and so who's filming that?
Oh, so one of my good friends from actually Cornwall, from Newquay, is visiting.
Right, okay.
Yeah, he's visiting me right now, and
Cool.
he happened to go with me. We were going to go into LA and go to a camera shop, because he's also a filmer and a magician, but he does a lot of social media stuff.
Okay.
And I just said, "Here, Jerry, grab this." And so he grabs the phone, and he knew exactly what to do, but he didn't know what I was going to do, and he just captured that moment. And that's the thing that I want people to know. Like with my stuff, my cameraman or woman, because my girlfriend films a lot for me, they don't know what I'm going to do, but they know I'm going to do something. So really what you see on the camera, I do edit a little bit of like the hims and the haws out, just so I can keep the flow going, because it is Instagram or whatnot.
Yeah.
But other than that, pretty much the approach and how you see the camera capturing it would be exactly how it would be in real life.
So, do you have so many tricks on you when you do literally have I'm loaded with 5 or 6, and you'll just feel the moment when you go to do it that you'll do, well, I'll do that trick, or do you just do one trick and keep repeating to get that reaction?
No, I do multiple. I have an arsenal in my head of moves.
Yeah.
I may not have the material, and then I always look around and I go, "Oh, what can I vanish right now? What can I transport? And I just look around, because the method is always going to be the same. The objects and presentation might change.
Yeah, sure. And so I'm going to jump you back now, because this is just fascinating. So there we are. Let's go back to you were 21, 22, and this was and because of the style of magic, you're doing it on the street, and you're doing your very first show. So what trick was it, and how nervous were you when you were like, right, I'm going to do this, and you find 2 people? Just talk me through your very first show.
So 2 people were actually, I think it was 3. It was just a group of friends. We were at like a house party, and someone said, "Oh, do a trick," and I started with a simple card trick, like a ambitious card where someone picks a card and the card keeps coming back to the top, and then I was just feeling them out, and then from there, I noticed that they were like, "Oh, cool, he's doing a card trick," and I never want people to be like, "Oh, he's doing a card trick," or "He's doing a coin trick." I want it to be about the moment, not the trick. Yeah. So I started there, and then I also had my little fanny pack of magic tricks at the time.
Yeah.
And right after that, I said, "Oh, cards are cool. We all know cards. But what about rope?" And everyone's like, "Rope?" And I'm like, "Yeah, rope magic." And they were just intrigued because a lot of people have never seen rope magic because everyone sees cards or coins. And so I said to him, so imagine, and I had 3 pieces of rope that weren't the same. And I said, now imagine for a second that these are magic ropes. And everyone's just like completely just glued.
So so just to stop you there, David, so I can do, you're holding 2 pieces of rope in front of you?
I'm holding 3. 3. A small, a medium, and long.
Right, got you. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
And I said to them, all right, so here's 3 pieces of rope. Now, all I'm going to do is fairly take each end and just put them up so all the ends are equal, but the middles won't be. And they were like, okay. And then I said, now the best part about magic is not what we're doing, but it's how we're doing it. And how we're going to do this is just by using our imagination. Now, in your mind, I just want you to pretend that I'm stretching these ropes and they become all one length. All 3 of them become one length. And they were like, okay. And I said, you guys got it? Everyone's picturing it? Everyone? And then it goes back to that audience management.
Yeah.
And once I realized that audience management is the key, it took out my nerves.
Right.
And if every time I felt nervous, I would just throw it back to them.
Yeah.
I would just extend the moment on them. And then I said, all right, everyone's got that? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool, because now I'm going to actually pull the rope. So I started pulling the rope, and lo and behold, they all stretched.
Yeah.
And then they were like, what? And then I individually handed them out as the length. And this is a classic trick.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't matter if the trick has been done for years. People don't see it. Or they may have not seen it with that presentation.
Yeah.
So to them, it's still new.
Yeah.
And then that's when I realized, okay, don't go into any performance, no matter how big or small, presuming that people have seen your trick.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they have. I mean, you know how many times I take out a deck of cards and they go, I've seen this trick.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I haven't even done anything. Like, no, I've seen it. And I'm like, okay. And then at the end of the trick, they're like, I've never seen that one. I go, see, I told you.
And is it because, and I think there's that, because of all the stuff you do and I've watched, and is that, I think it's because most people have watched it on television, but they don't believe it. But when it happens right in front of them, that's when they can't disbelieve it. It's because it's there, it's happened. And I think, especially watching your clips, is that the intensity of it is because you're doing it right in front of them. It's happening in the palm of their hand. And they
100%. That's exactly what it is, because they're like, oh, I cannot believe this, because I've seen this trick on TV, but you just did it in front of me and there's no cameras around. And I'm like, exactly, because magic will happen with or without cameras.
Yeah, and I think this is the style you do, and this is that new wave that came through, I suppose, in the late 80s, early 90s, or a bit later, David. It's this, as you say, and as your name suggests, the magic crasher. You're just crashing into people on the streets or wherever, and and it happens. Now, you were known as the party guy. Was that right? The guy does about this time. That was your name, was it? The party guy does magic tricks or something like that.
Yeah. So around like 22. I was always known as just the party guy versus or magic man is what they would dub me. And basically any party I was at, if a moment needed to kind of bring up the mood, I would just get up and I would say, and I would literally look at 20 people in this party and I'd be like, hey guys, come here. And of course, if somebody says, come here, they're going to come there. Versus, hey guys, come here, I'm going to show you a magic trick. Now it gives them the option to be like, nah, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
So I just say, come here. And I would be known to heighten the party at that point. And
Yeah.
so then it led to me getting invited to a lot of parties, which was really cool.
Not bad. And again, that's that audience management thing you're talking about, getting them.
Exactly.
So, and when did you become the Magic Crasher? When did that name arise?
Okay, so this is cool. So about 28 years old, I got diagnosed with lymphoma, and I had to battle a little bit of cancer. And I was working at a car dealership, and I was like, you know what? There's something more, So
Yeah.
I ended up getting sick, and I actually fell out of magic till
Really?
about 30, about 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I was working at a store, like a retail store called Big Lots.
Yeah.
As a manager. Yes, I was working in the car dealership, and I always will love magic, but just other things were going on in my life at that point.
Yeah.
And so I got sick, and I had to focus on that. And then I was kind of putting myself back on track, and I was working at a retail shop, and I was in the back just saying, you know what, I got to do more. This is not me. This is not the end of. So I remember going back out, and I'm ringing up a guest, and I just started doing magic again. I took the guest receipt and I turned it into their change.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? And so a couple people in line started talking, and then people would come back every week and they would buy stuff. I had a lot of regulars, and then they would say, hey, can you do a trick before I go? Sure.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Magic is still cool. And then one day I'm doing it and didn't realize who I was doing it for. I was doing it for this elder gentleman, and he was with a friend. And I kind of knew who the friend was, but it didn't really click. And then after I did this trick, the friend spoke up, and he goes, hey, you're pretty good. And I said, thank you. I'm an actor, and we're shooting a movie right now, and our magic consultant is horrible compared to you. And I was like, oh, wow, thanks. I guess that's a compliment. And he said, he said, I'm shooting a movie called Burt Wonderstone. And I was like, oh, cool. What's it about?
Yeah.
And basically the actor was I think his name's Alan, not Ackerman. I mean, he's a magician, but Alan, I can't remember his last name, but he played the magician that Burt Wonderstone idolized in the movie.
Oh, is it Steve Carell and Steve Buscemi, were in it?
Yes. And Steve Carell was inspired by a magician on TV when he was little, or the character.
Yeah, I think that's a great film. Yes, I've just seen it on the net now. That's you worked on that as a consultant.
Well, so the actor that played the guy that Steve Carell's character idolized was the guy at my store.
No
and he
way.
Invited me on his set, and they were shooting in San Diego. He invited me on set, and I just thought I just naturally fit in. And that's when I realized, oh, there is something more.
Yeah.
So that was just a cool little brief moment. And then I was battling the cancer, and I was finishing treatment. And my last day, I remember bringing some magic, and I did magic for the people that were in the chemo chairs.
Yeah.
And when I saw them react, that's when I realized, okay, I got to do this again.
And that was...
I'm older. I've been through some stuff. I got to do it again.
Yeah. And that was kind of a spark that got it going again for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then from there, literally, I would say 3 weeks later, I started my YouTube channel.
Wow. And it was as quick as that it just started to happen for you again.
Yes. And then I just started putting tricks on the internet and just having a blast, and didn't care about going viral or anything. I just was being me.
Yeah.
And then I think I did a video where I was at the beach and I sat on nothing. It's called the invisible chair prank.
Okay.
And that ended up going uber viral. And that's when I started taking the YouTube thing seriously. And that's basically what started my career as a YouTuber. And I felt like, hey, I'm back on top.
You could
Not that no one knew who I was, but I was back on top because I believed in something again.
You could, and that's a hell of a thing to battle as well, and to go through a scare like lymphoma. And are you in full remission, or back then it's all full remission and you're okay now?
Yes, I'm 10 years remission.
Oh, that's fantastic.
No, sorry, not 10 years, 7 years.
7 years. That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And listen, the style of your magic, it's great. The energy that you give, I absolutely love it. And that's when I was looking at all your clips. And the work, and just briefly, and we talked about Scott back in the magic shop, the autistic child, and you build tricks. Is that right? You make tricks as well for autistic children or autistic people?
Yes, actually, I do a mixture of, I create tricks that are usually classics that I just make more relevant using objects that they are familiar with, but the method is pretty much the same. And I decided to start making them to where they could do it. And I realized that it turned into more. And now they are utilized in autistic programs all around. I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and they have adapted all these tricks, and they teach their students. And what they told me, they find that the students have more eye contact.
Wow.
They are more apt to approach someone versus, if you know anything about the autistic community, they do not like to approach anybody, especially if they're high function or low functioning.
Sure.
And I forgot to mention, yes, Scott was low on the spectrum, so he was very, very impaired.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So when I realized this, I just started making some, and then reaching out to like Autism Speaks and a couple other foundations that dedicate to autism research. And what I realized, all they care about is being inclusive. If any art form or anything can be inclusive to the autistic community, that's what they're looking for. And so I do that on my spare time. When I'm not filming or when I'm not working on a TV show, I am constantly in the community. Yeah,
you're out. And so you work locally with schools or colleges or special schools to devise these tricks and then to perform them to the kids as well?
Yeah, so they'll have me come out and have me do like a little magic show for them.
Yeah.
And everything that I do, they can do.
Yeah, and do you slightly tailor the performance, as you said about the tricks? They're more colourful, they're bolder, they're simpler. But does your speech change? Does your body language change?
My speech does not change. I talk to them like humans. I maybe talk to them more like a human. I let the magic speak to them more than anything. My body language, body language is very important as well. And if they feel you're being a little standoffish or delicate around them, they're not going to give you them.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I want them to be them in their environment. I'm a guest in their environment. Sure. I want them to feel comfortable in their environment because I can adapt.
Yeah. You've got that You've got that whole ability to, and if anybody wanted to get hold of your tricks or interested about getting, do you have a website or where they can buy these tricks? Because
they can always they can just reach out to me. Like for me, the autism thing is not about making money; it's about creating more awareness. So like if somebody is really into it and they're like, hey, this would really help me, they can just drop me an email on my website, themagiccrasher.com, and I will personally reach out and I will send a PDF and maybe some tricks to them free of charge, because what it is for me, it's about spreading that love.
Sure.
Because they might have the next, one of my tricks might be the missing link that will help their student or their loved one get out of their shell more.
Yeah, of course. Oh, that's that's wonderful. I'll make sure I'll put all of your details on the iTunes blog and stuff like that. So, and where are you next? Have you got a big telly show coming up, or where are you performing next? I mean, mainly you're on the street, but you've got loads of stuff going on your Instagram account. So, but any big projects coming up?
Right now I am out filming a lot for my IGTV, and that's Instagram TV, and also my YouTube. So I'm usually around there, but I do have a couple clips coming out on television. It's called, I think it's going to be called World's Greatest Street Magic, I believe is what it is. And they're going to be using several of my clips from YouTube. And so that will be coming out soon.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Well, I'll make sure I'll get all of that in the bag of stuff. So so one final question.
Sure.
Is who do you think I should interview for the podcast? Who would you like me to track down and get on the show?
I would say my mate Jerry Sims, the gentleman from Cornwall.
Yeah.
The reason being is, yes, he's a magician, but his story was how we met. We met on Instagram, and he basically. So how I kind of got my name going was I got into the skate industry, and I was known as the skate magician. I would always go and do magic for the top pro skaters, because when I had cancer, I lived in Encinitas in San Diego, and that pretty much is the honeypot of all the action sports stars that we see now.
Right,
Travis Pastrana, just you name it. Just they all live in that area.
Yeah.
And so I was just sitting at home one day, and I get a message from Jerry, and he was like, "Hey, I'm with your mate right now." And I'm like, "Oh yeah?" And so he contacts me. I send him my number, and he's with Travis Pastrana and this guy named Wes Kramer. And I did a couple videos online with them, and I was like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I'm the U in the UK." He's been sponsored by DC Shoes for the last 10 years as their house magician.
Wow.
So it was really cool that we had that very similarity, but just distance away. And then his journey has led him now into doing social media. He's a social media management company.
Okay.
And he doesn't do magic as much, but he was a consultant for Troy.
Right. Okay. Which is
the TV show.
Right. Okay. Right. Oh, really? He was on that. That was massive as well. So
Yes.
So it's okay. So listen, Jerry Sims. That sounds brilliant. So I'll get in touch with Jerry. But listen, thank you for your time today. And I think this is going to be a follow-up episode, because
please do. I would love to.
I just not because I've got to come back, and we'll definitely we'll do a follow-up episode because there's so much more I want to talk to you about. You've been so engaging today. It's been great to hear about everything you do. And so listen, a big thank you to the Magic Crasher, David Bonfadini.
Yes, and remember, you have a daily routine, and it's my job to crash it.
It is, and as well, and as I like I'll go out on your words, which is keep it real, keep it magic, keep it real magic.
Yep.
And I like that a lot, and I think that's wonderful. Listen, thank you, David, for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Jeff, so much, and good luck to the pod and everyone listening. You know, people that are doing stuff like this, bringing you people from all around. You know, that's stuff that I like to be engaged in. So thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
You've been listening to Funny Peculiar. Tune in next week. More great guests.
So a big thank you again to my guest this week, David Bonfadini, also known as The Magic Crasher. Again, go to his website, themagiccrasher.com. He's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. Just put in The Magic Crasher and subscribe and like to all his stuff. He's brilliant. He's always coming up with tricks. His latest is on a skateboard. He's floating above, sitting on a skateboard. It's brilliant. Check it out. So a massive thank you. So keep listening, keep downloading. I can't do much better than that. That's one of the best guests I've ever had on this podcast. He was so engaging. I really enjoyed it. So let's see what we get next week. Who knows? It's Funny Peculiar.